Hello, welcome to an educational moment. I'm your host, Dr. Pat Dingle. I'd like to first start the show with a shout out to my students at Sarasville High School. Hello, Sarasville Hornets. It's a great experience working with the students at Sarasville, and I don't want to be selfish. So if any other schools would like to get a shout out, please write me at the Bowie Studio and I will give a shout out to your school and to your mascots. We have a wonderful program planned for this particular episode of An Educational Moment. For those of you joining us, this show airs in the afternoon, the evening, and also it airs early morning. So I try to refrain from saying things like tonight or good morning because the show does play, as I stated, in multiple time formats. I will be discussing the activities that I'm participating in and an upcoming special event, as well as discussing some current events. So let's start off with my activities. I'm a graduate of the University of Maryland in College Park, so I was very excited to see that the University of Maryland Alumni Association is sponsoring a University of Maryland Black Alumni Connect with Maryland program. It's on February 24th, and it's entitled Slavery and the University of Maryland Discussion. I'm looking forward to this. Of course, as a 2010 visiting scholar with the History Makers in Chicago, I am very much interested in African American history. Obviously, there are other reasons besides being a visiting scholar, but as part of my heritage, I think that it's crucial for me to know something about my history. And I encourage every person to investigate his or her history. It's very crucial. You get a better understanding, according to Reverend Lee W. Turner or Dr. Turner. You can't understand where you're going if you don't know your history. So everyone, dig into your history. Through the National Association of Secondary School Principals, I became aware of an opportunity to join another learning community. The College Board Advocacy and Policy Center sponsors webinars free of charge, and also membership in their community is also free. So I did join that particular learning community, and I look forward to taking some of the webinars with them. So these are just discussions or lectures online. Another opportunity that I will be taking advantage of is coming up this coming week. It's entitled Framework for Teaching. As you know, the Prince George's County Public Schools and some other schools in the nation are using the Framework for Teaching by Danielson. So I will be learning a little bit about the Danielson method and the Framework for Teaching this coming week. I encourage you to become a part of a learning community. The National Endowment for Humanities sponsors a learning community. And so I really do encourage you to get online and join some of the learning communities so that you can be better informed. Now, I mentioned a very special activity, and I want to share that with you. Tentatively on March the 10th, 2012, during National Women's History Month, I will be sponsoring a workshop. The workshop will be about Hannah Arendt or Hannah Arendt, depending upon how you pronounce her name, according to you, because I know there are a couple of pronunciations, but I will be sponsoring the Hannah Arendt workshop this coming March. Hannah Arendt was a scholar, she was a journalist, and she was a wonderful thinker. One of her greatest passions was considering the human condition, looking at the membership of every human being in the human race and what privileges should come with that membership. So I will be looking at some of the issues and some of the ideas espoused by Hannah Arendt at an upcoming workshop. It will be free, however, you will need to register for it. So if you're interested, again, write me at the studio. And I also have a P.O. box where you may write me. There will be a limited number of people that can come, but I encourage you to come. I studied under the direction of Professor Kathy Jones. Kathy Jones was here in the studio with us some time ago, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great opportunity. We're going to move on to our topics for tonight. And the first topic I think is wonderful because of the current movie scene. Everyone knows that the Iron Lady is playing in the theater, and that Meryl Streep won for Best Actress in The Iron Lady, and of course that is a film about Margaret Thatcher. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about a book that I'm reading. It's called The Pathway to Power, and it's by Margaret Thatcher. I think it's a great book because it provides innumerable insights into her life, and she has quite an interesting life, I tell you. The book is copyrighted in 1995. Originally, it was copyrighted by Margaret Thatcher herself. Later in 1995, it was copyrighted by HarperCollins Publishers in Great Britain, and HarperCollins is without a space in between the words. Some of the highlights from this book that you see in front of me. First of all, Margaret Thatcher was a Methodist by faith. She liked music. She took piano lessons at the age of 5. Now, this is significant. Students or children taking music at the age of 5 can develop great dexterity in their left hand, and so that they can sort of like play really, really well and possibly become a virtuoso if they start at that early age. And starting later, a lot of people don't get the dexterity in the left hand. So I thought I would share that. Another significant aspect of studying music at the age of 5 is that, according to Eric Jensen, author of The Arts with the Brain in Mind, according to Jensen, when you study music, it actually alters the development of the brain. I want to quote from Thatcher's book. On page 9, she talks about music. She says, "It was, I confess," and I'm quoting, "the musical side of Methodism which I like best. We sang hymns on the occasions of Sunday school anniversaries." In her book, she also shares a lot about her values and beliefs. She says that the values that she learned at church were faithfully reflected in her home. She also said that in her home was an emphasis on hard work, and that's from page 11. She also was a very thrifty young person, and she came from a thrifty family. Quoting her now, she says on page 12, "Nothing in our house was wasted, and we always lived within our means." She continues by making a very, very strong statement that I want to share with you. And what she talks about is having conviction. This stood out in my mind because in our society, we are constantly bombarded with instances where people have not held their convictions, or in the educational school, the public school, private schools, when we have peer group pressure with children, adolescents, a lot of times they do not hold to their convictions. So encouraging children to have conviction and to stand for their convictions is important. So I want to share with you what Margaret Thatcher said. And of course, Margaret Thatcher is a world-renowned leader. She was the Prime Minister of England. And so I think that it's very poignant to share some of the important ideas, her values and beliefs, in the hope that it will inspire and encourage our young people and other people in our community, not just young people, but inspire everyone to be stronger and to be better contributors to society. She says, and I'm quoting, "The upright qualities which entailed a refusal, let me start that again. The upright qualities, comma, which entailed a refusal to alter your convictions just because others disagreed or because you became unpopular, were instilled in me from the earliest days." And I think this is another point I want to make based upon this quote, which can be found on page 7 in this book. We have to instill values in children from the earliest days, and I would agree with that. The last quote, which I would like to make from her book, The Pathway to Power by Margaret Thatcher, is about the United States. And I think this is a very wonderful statement. And I believe in this statement is embodied the loyalty and the respect that Margaret Thatcher had for the United States. And I quote, "I used to remind the Soviets when I became prime minister that the most persuasive proof of the essential benevolence of the United States was that in those few crucial years when it alone possessed the military means to enforce its will upon the world, it refrained from doing so." This quote is taken from page 54 in The Pathway to Power by Margaret Thatcher. I encourage you to read it. It's a very, very dense book with a lot of wonderful vocabulary words and a host of uplifting values and ideas. I want to move on to another reading that I engaged in. And it comes from the January 23rd through January 29th, 2012 Bloomsburg Business Week. In the Business Week, Bloomsburg Business Week, they have a wonderful section entitled Global Economics. I encourage you to read it because it really capsulizes the issues that we as Americans face and that people face globally around the world. This particular issue talks about social mobility and African Americans. The subheading, of course, is social mobility, but underneath there, in bold print, it reads as follows: wanted, more black entrepreneurs. In this article, there is a lawyer by the name of Ted Wells, who is an African American. He serves as a partner at the Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison law firm in New York. And he makes some points in the article, and he discusses about how hard it is for black entrepreneurs. And in particular, within this article, he mentions that he is the author of a book called Fraternity. And the book Fraternity is about 5 African American students who lived on the same floor at a resident hall at Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts. This stood out in my mind because as a graduate of Connecticut College, I had occasion to visit Holy Cross as a student for one of their social events. And it was quite a lovely campus with very, very friendly students, but that was way back in the 70s. Ted Wells says that priest John E. Brooks helped them be successful. He uses other words, but I'm assuming that what he meant was he helped them be successful. He didn't go into a lot of detail, but you might want to read his book and find out more. I want to talk about some of the issues raised in the article, and I want to point out about 5 of them. The first issue raised in the article is that about new ventures in the United States as it relates to new businesses. And of course, this has a slant on African Americans, I guess because Ted Wells is African American, so he looked at it from an African American perspective. 9% of new ventures are African American, while 23% of new ventures are Latino. In the article, it's mentioned that African Americans are 6 times as likely to be incarcerated as whites. The third issue, and I listed my own 5 issues, there were many more issues. The third issue, which I list, is the funding for black entrepreneurs is a challenge, and this is a direct quote from page 16. Funding for black, I'm correcting myself. Funding for black enterprises is a challenge, again from page 16. 4, perceptions of African Americans affect African American borrowers. In other words, just the fact that a borrower is African American will be more difficult because perceptions of African Americans sometimes are negative, and therefore lenders may just dress the African American borrowers that come to them in these particular perceptions, which may be incorrect. And of course, nobody wants to be misjudged. The last issue which I want to raise from this article that was included comes from Diane Brady, a couple of quotes from Diane Brady. The first quote says, "Economic empowerment is the next wave of civil rights." The second quote says, "Everyone's got to understand the language of money." So I think that that would be a crucial point to remember as you think about what you have gleaned from tonight's episode or from the episode today, depending upon when you're seeing it. Every single person has got to understand the language of money. Ted Wells talks about the actual fact that the race of an individual can actually impact the person's economic standing. I know this is not a popular thought because in America we think, or we have been taught, or we believe that a person's merit dictates how successful he or she is. However, I think that it's crucial to read and to understand as well as to experience our society. With these readings and your experiences in this society, you can then make more informed decisions regarding what is true and what is false. I have shared with you The Pathway to Power by Margaret Thatcher, making a number of quotes from her book directly. I also have shared with you the article under the topic of global economics. And I did neglect to talk about who wrote the article. I don't think I saw a particular author mentioned, but I will check it. I'm assuming, well, I don't see an author for the article, so perhaps this was an article that was a combined effort from a number of writers in the magazine. In any event, it's quite an excellent article. And within the Bloomberg's Business Week, something else that you may find interesting is a little graphic organizer that is entitled The MIT Family Tree. And above that, it says monetary policy. And as I looked at it, it looks sort of like a family tree in a way. It reminds me of a family tree. But here in Bloomberg Business Week, they have done an excellent job of showing how social networking and also being at the right place at the right moment is how we normally say it. But the social networking and the opportunities of meeting different people impact our society. And so, in other words, what they demonstrate in this particular graphic organizer, and I'm not going to show it on air, but what they demonstrate is that MIT is a force in the global economics, not just in this country, but according to what I could surmise, in the world. So every individual, especially our young people, especially those of you who are in career fields where you want to be promoted, where you want to have some career development in your field, it's crucial to be involved in social networking, going out, meeting people, also being involved in the organizations that are directly related to your career field, as well as branching out into the community and meeting other individuals with high energy and grand aspirations as yourself. This has been an educational moment. I'm your host, Dr. Pat Dingle, and I'm certainly hoping that you will join me again on an educational moment. Now, before I close, I want to say the following. Please be sure to contact me and let me know if you, one, want to receive a shout out on an educational moment from a school and your mascot. And also, I would like for you to take advantage of the wonderful workshop on Hannah Arendt, or Hannah Arendt. She was a Jewish political theorist, journalist, And this is a great opportunity. It comes about as a result of my involvement with the National Endowment for Humanities. Again, I was a visiting scholar in the 2011 honorary workshop at Bard College. So I look forward to sharing with my community some of the information that I received during my summer seminar. Again, this has been an educational moment. I'm your host, Dr. Pat Dingle. Thank you for joining, and I hope that you will tune in again.